Well, folks, it is almost time for the biggest Iowa football game in at least 4 years, and maybe longer if you think about what's on the line. The time of the game on the schedule. We have almost made it. Iowa versus Oregon this Saturday afternoon. I'm gonna talk all about it tonight. Welcome to Iowa Primetime Live. My name is Zach Heine. I'm your host of this show. It's every Thursday night at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we are on, of course, Iowa at the voice of college football, Iowa Prime Time Live. And we got a lot to talk about tonight because Iowa plays a huge, absolutely massive football game in just under 48 hours over there at Kinnick Stadium. And 2 days from now, we're going to know what kind of team we have here with Iowa. Have the last couple of weeks just been them playing some subpar competition and looking really good? Or is this team for real? Is this team ready to make a run, a late season push for a college football playoff spot? It's not going to be easy. They have a big challenge in front of them with Oregon in town, but we're going to talk about it because I think that there's definitely an avenue to an Iowa victory in this game. Iowa Primetime Live, Iowa at the voice of college football. Make sure you're following me on X at Jack_Heine. You can follow my written work as well at Hawkeyes Wire. We have tons of content over there right now with football, into the final month, and men's and women's basketball getting started. And wow, did both of those teams look impressive in their first game of the season. Excited to watch them some more over there at Carver Hawkeye Arena. And any other, injury updates, news, whatever, Indiana Fever stuff, Caitlin Clark, Iowa wrestling, whatever interests you within the Hawkeye, athletic realm, we've got it covered for you over at Hawkeyes Wire. So make sure that you give us a follow there. Make that your first stop every morning for your daily dose of Iowa content. And then, of course, make sure you're following the voice of college football at the VOCFB. The college football playoff rankings are out. There's a lot going on, a lot to talk about, a lot to break down. And this is the place to be to hear it from every perspective. We've got it covered. And so make sure that you're checking out the voice of college football at the VOCFB. And those college football rankings I just mentioned, Iowa finally gets some respect from a ranking. They are in the top 25 of the college football playoff rankings. They are ranked number 20, and they will take on Oregon, who's ranked number 9 in the college football playoff rankings. And those rankings, by the way, are now like the official rankings. We use the AP poll all the way up until now. And so when you turn on CBS on Saturday afternoon, it's going to have that 20 next to Iowa because it's the ranking that we're using the most is that college football playoff ranking. And so Iowa is number 20 in the country, and they have a huge opportunity this weekend with Oregon coming to town to finally pick up that signature victory. And I'm going to start just with a big picture talk about what this game means for Iowa, and I'll touch on Oregon as well, but mainly from the Iowa perspective, and then we'll get into breaking down Oregon and what they bring to the table, what are some things that should really concern you as an Iowa fan in this game, and where are some potential avenues for success? Where can you catch Oregon lacking a little bit and pick up a win? And so I think that's really the big question tonight. And then, of course, my prediction at the end of the show. It is our call-in show as well, so I'm going to put that link in the chat in just a little bit. And if you want to hop on and talk about this game and anything else Iowa athletic related, just, the link will be right there in the chat, and we'll bring you on to talk about that. We already have some action in the chat right now. Skylar with just hits us with a go Hawks, as does Kelvin Fisher. Excitement around this football team is high right now, and this game is massive. This game on Saturday is absolutely massive for Iowa. They're back in the top 25 rankings. They're playing number 9 Oregon, and they're at a spot where they're 20th, and so if they beat Oregon this weekend, they're probably going to be in that 12 to 15 range, give or take, depending on what happens in the rest of the top 25. I mean, you're right there. You're right there to get that at-large bid, and this would be your best win easily of the season, no matter how you get it, no matter how it goes down. Beating Oregon is no easy task, and this game is it's just huge for Iowa. It's a chance for them to show and to prove that they are legit. Because I think there's a lot of excitement around the team, but there's also a lot of people being a little cautious, being like, "Hey, let's pump the brakes a little bit on Iowa. Who have they beaten?" And it's a fair argument. Like, it's awesome that Iowa, hung with Indiana and almost won, and arguably should have won that game, but they didn't. It's still a loss on the schedule. Same with Iowa State. And boy, does that loss just not age well as the season goes on. Iowa State, losers of 4 games in a row, and I get that they're really banged up, and they were pretty healthy when they faced Iowa back in week 2. But yikes, that loss to Iowa State is really not aging well for Iowa. And so, I mean, you got to get this win this weekend if you want to have a shot. But who have they beaten outside of that? An FCS school, UMass is terrible. Rutgers is not good in the Big Ten. Neither is Indiana. I don't think Minnesota is very good personally, but they have some okay national recognition, and so if you want to give them credit for that, I'm fine with that. And the matter that they won was no fluke, of course. And then the Penn State game is so hard to judge because this team is talented, but they have underperformed heavily. They're not winning conference games. Their quarterback's out. Their head coach is fired. So it's kind of hard to put too much stock into that win, even though it was a pretty big victory for Iowa at the moment. And so a lot of the naysayers out there, their argument makes sense. Their argument is that Iowa hasn't beaten anyone of note, and it's a fair argument. I don't necessarily agree with it wholeheartedly, but I can definitely see where they're coming from with that. And this is a chance for Iowa to really set up that argument, like, oh, we haven't beaten anyone, we just beat Oregon, and an Oregon team that's very well regarded by college football pundits and analysts. They're a top 10 team perennially every season under Dan Lanning. I mean, that roster is really good, and there wouldn't be anything fluky about it. If Iowa wins this game, they win this game, and I think that's where the opportunity lies. Obviously, a chance to break the losing streak versus ranked opponents. It's at 11 games now in a row that Iowa has lost against ranked opponents. If they want to, achieve their goals this season, that has to change. And a chance to kind of get that monkey off their back as well. And so this came up. This game presents Iowa with a lot of opportunities to, prove the doubters wrong, to prove it to themselves and to everyone else that they are legit, that they are a team that is worthy of at least being in the college football playoff conversations. And we're at a point where there's no moral victories with Iowa. You already have 2 losses. You lose a third game, you're not in that conversation for the college football playoffs. And so Indiana was, I guess technically a moral victory, if you want to call it that, because of how close that game was. And Iowa is still the only team to have really given Indiana a close game all season long. But there's no more time for moral victories. There's time for actual victories on the field, like against ranked opponents at home at Kinnick Stadium. This is the opportunity for Iowa. This is what you are building for. This is what you brought Mark Gronowski in and paid him $2 million for. Is for this game, these kind of games, these opportunities, because they don't come around very often. And you have one now at home. Some bad weather potentially in play. It's November and Oregon's traveling across the country. There's a lot of things kind of playing to Iowa's hand heading into this game. And there's a lot of people picking Iowa to win, and I don't know if I like that necessarily. I think Iowa really operates best when they are the underdog, when they kind of have that chip on their shoulder, that no one believes in us kind of mentality. And a lot of people, I've seen a lot of national analysts I know Kirk Herbstreit called his shot that Iowa is going to beat Oregon this weekend. Some other guys on ESPN were calling, like, there's a lot of people really buying into the Iowa hype train right now, and I don't know if that's necessarily the best thing for Iowa because Oregon's thinking, we're going in with a chip on our shoulder because no one's given us a shot on the road, even though we are the higher ranked team. And another thing for Oregon too is that they're kind of skating on thin ice with the college football playoff rankings committee right now, because Oregon was ranked 6th in the AP poll and they're at 9 in the college football playoff poll. And so clearly, some people in that committee aren't as high on Oregon, and they think that Oregon's probably the worst one-loss team in the conversation right now. And so there's a little extra motivation for Oregon to say, hey, like, we are this good. We are a team worthy of being in that conversation, and we shouldn't have slid 3 spots from where we were in the AP poll. And so I think Oregon's going to have a lot of, I don't want to call it bulletin board material, but a lot of ways to get ready and to get up for this game. Obviously, with a coach like Dan Lanning, he's going to use whatever scraps he can get to, motivate his team. Even the Phil Parker well-funded quote that I talked about last week being blown way out of proportion by Oregon fans, but Dan Lanning is going to be using that to hype his guys up for this game. So you're going to get an Oregon team at their best, at their absolute best. They're not going to be overlooking Iowa. They're not going to be automatically assuming they're walking in with the victory. Like, they kind of have a chip on their shoulder, and they're going to be ready to go. And so Iowa has to match that intensity, match that will to win that Oregon's going to walk into Kinnick Stadium with. And if they can do that, we're going to have one hell of a game on Saturday. This is shaping up to be a lot of fun. And Oregon's really good, but there are paths to victory for Iowa, which I will talk about here in just a second. We got the chat going very nicely right now. Cody says, I think this Iowa team is ready for the big stage and make a push to the college football playoff. O-line is probably its best since 2015. Yeah, the O-line has been absolutely dominant this year, and they're going to need to play their best game of the season on Saturday against Oregon. An Oregon team that surprisingly hasn't, gotten much pressure. I think only 11 sacks in 8 games for them, but still a ton of talent on that defensive front. And so Iowa's offensive line going to have to show up and play. It is one of their best units in recent years. And I think Iowa's ready too. I think they're ready. I think this is a huge opportunity. And if they fall flat, if they fall on their face on Saturday and they lose by, 2-3 scores, we can have a conversation then about the where the program's at. But this is definitely the most excited I've been about an Iowa football game in a couple of years at least. I think that 2021 Penn State game was really the last one I was this pumped up, this excited for, to see what are we going to get from Iowa. What's going to happen at Kinnick Stadium? I'm excited. We're going to get a big kick or punt return, says Cody. I would love that. Oregon has actually done a pretty good job this year of not allowing returns. I think their punter's only given up 2 punt returns all season long. He's one of those, Aussie style kickers. And I can almost guarantee that, Dan Lanning is saying that ball cannot land in the hands of 21. Like, if 21 gets the ball, we have failed as a special teams unit. And so I think Oregon is going to do their best to, kick away from Caden Weechin as much as possible. But we all know it just takes one mistake. It just takes one mishit, the ball to end in his hands, and he can be gone. And so it would not surprise me if he gets it, but I would guess that's a pretty big part of Oregon special teams conversation this week, is how the hell do we keep the ball away from Caden Weechin, because he can wreck a game single-handedly. And Cody also says, defensively is definitely better than expected, and Xavier is finally playing at that 5-star level. Montgomery at middle linebacker has been great. Yeah, X has been fantastic these last couple of weeks. You can really tell that, the Penn State game was huge for his confidence. Getting that interception just seemed to lift a weight off of his shoulders. He had a big moment, and then he got the forced fumble, and he got the tackles, and he just making plays. And he brought that into the Minnesota game the following week. Xavier Wampa has been a guy that people were so excited about what he could bring to the table. When it came to Iowa, he was a 5-star safety out of Southeast Polk High School, and there was a ton of hype and excitement around him, and he made some plays as a true freshman, and then we kind of saw a couple years where you didn't notice X out there too much, and that's not a bad thing necessarily for a DB if you don't notice them, because that means that they're not getting picked on. But you would have loved to see some more splash plays, and you've gotten them the last couple of weeks here now in his senior season, and so really happy for X out there making plays left and right, and he's going to be big. He's going to need to play big time this weekend against Oregon. And then Jaden Montgomery at middle linebacker, he has been really good, and he is going to be getting the start this weekend, according to Kirk Ferentz. I believe Jaden Harrell is healthy, but they are going to start Jaden Montgomery, which I'm a fan of that. I like that. I think he's played well next to Carson Shire and really helped to shore up that defense. And especially in the passing game, in the passing game, I think he's been really good too. And so, a nice find there for Iowa and Jaden Montgomery. Cody also says Hall and Lee have also made huge steps this year. Yeah, TJ Hall and Deshaun Lee. I mean, TJ Hall all season long has been fantastic. He's been that number one corner for Iowa. He's been great filling in for that role that Jamari Harris had last year. And Deshaun Lee, some struggles early in the season, but these last couple games, he has been impressive, really stepping up on the opposite side of TJ Hall. Now opposing offenses can't just pick on Deshaun Lee. They have to, be a bit more careful. That's really helped Iowa's, defense come together since that first half of the Rutgers game. And so, big shout out to Deshaun Lee. If you're going to get on a guy and when he's not playing well, you got to give him his flowers when he turns it around. And Deshaun Lee has been, playing some really, really good ball these last couple of weeks. Really good ball. As well as Zach Lutmer has been amazing this year. Yeah, if you've watched the show for a while, that before the season even started, I was all over the Zach Lutmer hype train. He was my player to watch defensively. He was someone that I think was going to have a big breakout year, and boy, has he done that. A couple picks, a pick six, flying around the back end, making plays, making fourth down stops. I mean, Zach Lutmer has been a huge find for this team. Only a sophomore too, so a guy that's going to be around for a little while in the program, you would hope. And I mean, really awesome stuff from Zach Lutmer. He has stepped up and entered the call this year in that Phil Parker defense, and it's been great. It's been great to see. And we have Gravel Project with this defense has really matured a lot in the last 3 to 4 games, even against Indiana. They looked better than the first 3 games. Yeah, it really began with the second half of that Rutgers game where they turned it around, but the Indiana game, they were fantastic in that game. They gave up 20 points, but the last touchdown was with a minute and a half left. They gave up 13 points, with 2 minutes left in that game. Like they were unbelievable against an Indiana offense that has just walked up and down the field all season long against every other opponent on their schedule except for Iowa. Give a lot of credit to that defense, a lot of credit to Phil Parker for what he was able to do there, because that is not an easy offense at all to stop. And Iowa, did a really good job of that. Obviously, a couple breakdowns at the end prevented them from getting the win, but really great performance there. And then these last couple weeks, I mean, just unbelievable. Giving up 0 points against Wisconsin, giving up 24 to Penn State, but 7 of those were on a punt, or on a blocked kick return for a touchdown. Another 7 came off of a short field. So when you boil it down, it's not as bad as the numbers look. And then 3 to Minnesota. And so this defense has been playing really good ball. I just threw the StreamYard link in the chat because it is our call-in show. So if you want to call in and talk about this game, get some things off your chest. How excited are you? What can Iowa do to win this game? Do you have Iowa winning this game? Whatever you want to talk about, The link is in the chat. It'll bring you in here, and I'll bring you on. We can talk about anything Iowa football related that you want to get into. But until we get someone on, I'm going to transition over to an Oregon preview because this Oregon team is really good. And let's break it down. I'm going to share my screen here. Talking about Oregon, and we're going to start with their offense. And with Oregon's offense, it starts with Dante Moore. He is their sophomore quarterback. Oregon's had some really experienced veterans in the game. The last couple of years, they had Bo Nix, and then they had Dylan Gabriel the last year. And so, starting a sophomore and Dante Moore is something a bit out of the ordinary for Oregon under Dan Lanning. But boy, has he been really good for them. You can see almost 1,800 passing yards, completing over 71% of his passes, 19 touchdowns to just 4 picks. A great quarterback rating. Dante Moore has been fantastic for Oregon this year, leading the charge. He left that last game with a nose injury, but it seems like he's all right and ready to go for this game. They had a bye week as well, and so Dante Moore will be out there, and he just looks. He's a sophomore, but he plays like a senior. He plays like he's very poised. He's very calm, cool, and collected under pressure, and he'll need to be that because Iowa is going to give him everything that he can handle. Same with that Kinnick crowd, but Oregon went and won at Penn State in a whiteout, and this was Penn State before they fell apart. This was Penn State with Drew Aller, with James Franklin. That was a top 5 team in the country. Before they fell apart, they went on the road in a whiteout and won in that environment. A lot of kudos, a lot of credit to Oregon for that win. They're not going to be intimidated by playing in a tough environment, but that doesn't mean that the environment can't play an effect in this game. I really believe that it can. I think that the Kinnick crowd is gonna step up. It's gonna make some plays, and it's going to try and rattle a sophomore quarterback that has not looked rattled much, in his short time there at Oregon. And so Dante Moore is really where it starts and stops with that Oregon offense. And he's going to be a big, piece of what Iowa needs to do defensively is to slow him down, get him under pressure, see if he can just force a mistake or two. Because I think ultimately this game it's going to come down to that. Which team is able to make, the least number of mistakes, which team is able to hold onto the ball, in a game like this with bad weather at home. There's going to be opportunities there for Iowa, and they've been very opportunistic defensively on the season. And so there's going to be a chance there to make some plays. All right, we're going to bring Kelvin on to talk about the game. It's been a little while since we've had you on, Kelvin. Good to see you, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I listened to almost every one you're on, but I just don't see the need to pop on very much,
Yeah.
You do a good job, and you usually have T. Hink or somebody on to join you. I wish you had a comrade on with you that would argue with you more,
I know. I know.
It's got to be hell trying, like, if you don't have somebody to come on like I just did, to carry a show for an hour or something.
Yeah. It's definitely a strain on the voice, but there's so much to talk about though with this Iowa football team, and they're playing really good football right now. And it's always more fun to talk about a team that is playing well and really finding its footing late in the season than a team that's kind of falling apart like an Iowa State is right now.
Yeah, I commented on a podcast. I'm on a podcast as a guest pretty regular, and I commented the other day that that it's just another really solid season by the Hawkeyes, improving all the time. And I got my eye on Clemson. And the host said, "Clemson, what are you talking about?" I go, if Clemson just loses one more game, then they can't win 8 games this year. And if Kirk just wins 2 more games, which I think, probability is he's going to win a couple more games at least this year, then Kirk will win 8 games. And then it'll be only 4 teams Iowa, Ohio State, Alabama, and Georgia have won 8 games. 2015 on. That's like the Mount Rushmore of consistency.
Yes,
You
yeah.
know,
I had no idea about that stat. That's incredible.
and
That's
it's
absolutely
little, and it's
incredible.
little. Which team doesn't belong in that group?
Uh,
Iowa, because
prob-
we're little old Iowa.
little
You
old
know,
Iowa, no 4 and 5-star recruits, no national championships in the
but
last decade, but here they are, like,
well, we
very
haven't.
consistent.
We've never really won a national
Yeah.
championship. We've been crowned a national champion in the 20s one time, and in 56 or 58 or something. Even though
In the 50s. Yeah.
we didn't even win the Big Ten championship that year. I
Well,
think we tied for it or something.
I
But
think I think Auburn even laid a claim to that championship in that
L-
same year, and so Iowa's not even like the
LSU is
sole
LSU is
owner of it.
LSU with Billy Cannon. I'm not old enough to remember that season, but LSU with Billy Cannon is the team that the nation the nation recognizes as winning the national championship that year. But I think we would have killed LSU if we played them that year.
Yep.
But they actually upset Auburn one of the last games of the year, and I think Billy Cannon won the Heisman. But we're getting off subject a little bit.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that I view this game as I try to. Love my Hawkeyes. You know, I want them to win. There's a chance we're going to win and all that. But as a realist, you just got to pick Oregon, you know, as the
Yeah.
favorite. I would say like 23-17 or something, you know, but I hate to say it. On the podcast the other night, I said it's like Ali versus Frazier. You know,
Yep.
Ali's the bigger guy, the faster guy, way more talented and everything. And that's Oregon is Ali.
Yep.
And I said, we're Joe Frazier. We pack a good left hook, good punch, and we come forward all the time. We're going to be there the whole game punching.
Yep.
But, you know, Ali did beat Frazier 2 out of 3 times. So we do have that 1 out of 3
It's a
chance.
chance. It's a chance, and I
Yeah.
think if you told Iowa fans that, earlier like after the Iowa State game or after, even a subpar performance against the UMass, like if they're gonna if you told Iowa fans that they would have a legitimate chance to beat Oregon, later in the season, I think most people would have signed up for that. And it just goes to show how much this team has really grown and come together, that, they are a top 20 team, and they are, kind of a darling pick to win this game. A lot of people are riding the Iowa hype train to win this game at home, and it could definitely happen. So I think that's really a testament to Kirk Ferentz and what he's done
Well,
with the team.
that's where, you know, in November, Kirk has played six top 10 teams at home in his career at Iowa, and he's beaten 5 of them.
Yep.
So people know that. They look up stats and they just think, well, Iowa can do it, you know, and Iowa sure played Indiana off their feet.
Oh yeah.
Don't you think if Gronk wouldn't have got hurt, we'd have probably won? Or
I've said that since since that game ended. If Mark Gronowski doesn't get hurt, Iowa wins that game, because they get that first down late in the game, because he completes that screen pass. You had a backup quarterback in there who really had no business, being on the field in that game, in that situation against that opponent. And, the nerves got to him a little bit, young kid. But I mean, if Mark Gronowski's healthy, I think they do beat Indiana. But, it's all the ifs and buts, where candies and nuts, all that stuff. And it's,
that's right.
Iowa didn't get the win, unfortunately, at the end of the day. But, they were right there. And they played Indiana the best of any team, this entire season. Iowa is the only team that's beaten them, or that's kept them within a 1-score game out of all the opponents on their schedule. And so, I mean, this Iowa team can show that they can hang with elite teams at Kinnick Stadium. But can they get it over the hump on Saturday? Can they beat that ranked team? I think that's what a lot of people are looking for this year.
I just don't see, when I look at Oregon, I don't see any real hole in their team. You know, their place kicker can't kick a 45-yard field goal. He doesn't have a big leg.
Yeah.
But Dan Lanning, if it's 4th and 1 and he's on
He's
our
going for it.
40, he's going to go for it.
Yep.
And they get it at a very high level. Of course, our defense is about as good as anybody in the country. I think they're second or something in the country at stopping teams on 4th down.
Yeah.
Phil Parker is. So, but I don't want to take up too much of your time. I just thought, well, I'm gonna come in and help the young man out a little bit. Do you still talk to Josh?
I do, yeah. Yep, Josh
I love that guy. Both of you are so nice.
Yeah, Josh is my boss over at Hawkeyes Wire, and so we talk daily. We're getting written content out there about everything Iowa football. The basketball team's really a lot of fun and excitement around them right now, and so
he ought to show his face once in a while, kid.
I'm hoping at some point he'll be able to come back here. If I'll tell you this right now. If Iowa beats Oregon on Saturday, I will ask Josh if he wants to come on for a segment next Thursday. I'll see if he wants to make an appearance. If Iowa picks up that win, a big signature victory over Oregon, I'll see if I can get Josh on here for 15-20 minutes next Thursday to talk about the game and give his thoughts on it. And so we're giving Iowa an incentive here. Win the game on Saturday, and we get to have we'll see if we can get Josh back on the show. So.
I don't know if that'll have much pull with the players, but it has good pull for me.
Yeah.
But
it's got good pull for the show.
I don't have any pull with the players either. But I know a lot of people think rain helps a running team, but I'll tell you what Hayden Fry said. I know you're too young. We went to the Freedom Bowl, and we played Texas, who was the number 1 team for 6 weeks that year.
Yep.
And they had some injuries and faltered, and we were playing them in the Freedom Bowl in a driving rain all night. And Chuck Long set a bowl record for like 460 yards passing, and we just blew Texas out. And Hayden said after the game, he said, as long as there's not a big wind, he said that rain coming down helps an extreme passing team. And he meant by extreme passing team is a team that's really good at throwing the ball deep, intermediate routes, can really confuse the defense. He said because your receiver knows where they're going, and the defensive backs, even if they're talented and are good cover people, they have slippery conditions where they have to, in the middle of a play, change direction and follow a guy. So I don't think the rain helps Iowa. I don't think the rain helps Iowa.
Yeah.
The weather could help Iowa if we had 10 inches of snow. And a big wind helps a good running team. We have an advantage in the offensive line because we have an advantage over 130 of the teams in college football.
Yep.
But
and Oregon's the better passing team, obviously, and so if there is rain, that could definitely, and
they're the
Oregon's
speed team.
Yep, lots of speed, lots of guys involved offensively for Oregon, and a really deep offense. It's going to be a challenge for this Iowa defense. I think this is probably, is this the best offense that they've played all year, or would you take Indiana's offense? I might take Indiana's offense a little bit over Oregon, but
Oregon's slightly faster.
Yeah,
but Indiana's week in and week out, the best. I'd say, you made some comment about Oregon being the lowest rated 1-loss team or something. Yeah. And I don't agree with the way the pundits are doing it. I think Oregon, the way they've played this year and with their roster, and they got about the best coach in college football. They got the best young coach in college football. I think he's only like 37 years old, which is ridiculous. But Oregon, I would have them as the number 4 team in the country. Obviously, Ohio State, Indiana, and A&M are the 3 best. And I just can't find a team that I think is as overall as good as Oregon. I know they've had a couple games where they didn't blow teams out, but they were probably hard to get them motivated to play Wisconsin.
Right. A terrible Wisconsin team.
It's kind of like kissing an ugly girl. You just ain't
Yep.
motivated to do it.
Yep. Yep. And,
So
and they have Notre Dame like right behind Oregon. I'm sorry, Notre Dame shouldn't even be in the same conversation as Oregon this year. I mean, who
they've
have they?
lost 2 games.
I mean, they lost 2 games. Who has Notre Dame beaten? And I don't have their schedule right in front of me, but I it feels like a move right there because a team has a big name brand. What they beaten Boston College, who's terrible, Syracuse. They beat USC, which is a good win, but I mean, Boston College, NC State,
Yeah.
Boise State, a terrible Arkansas team, Purdue. Like, what are?
Well,
I mean, these wins aren't impressive for Notre Dame.
I know I don't
Outside of
want to.
USC.
I don't want to take up all much more of your show, but I would like to make a point that
Yeah,
the
yeah.
way
Please, we
it's
have plenty
set
of
up
time.
right now, is so Kirk-esque.
Yeah,
He's a one game at a time guy. He likes to put his teams in these blocks of the first 4 or 5 games, and then the next 3 or 4 games. That's the way he talks to them because they don't want him to look ahead.
yep.
And now he's in a situation that I know what he's saying, even though I don't know what he's saying. He's saying right now, he said, we're a one game at a time team that gets better every week, and you guys sure have. He'd probably tell them how much he appreciates what their work and everything so far, but they still got to get better. And he's telling them now, I always tell you, it's a one game at a time deal, and we're in a tournament right now, and
Yep.
it's one loss and you're done.
Yeah, the
If
playoffs
we
start now.
lose to
Playoffs start
Oregon,
now.
we're out of the playoffs.
Yep. Yep. The playoffs start now. If you're
And,
Iowa.
yeah, and a lot of all the 2-loss teams are in this situation. There's not going to be a 3-loss SEC team this year.
No.
Because there's too many crappy Big 12 and ACC teams.
Yep.
That they're undefeated or they have one loss. Iowa would beat them by 3 touchdowns. If we played Georgia Tech, we'd maul them, even though they're undefeated. That's my opinion. So, and then if we beat Oregon, then Kirk's going to say, okay, we're on the next round of the tournament. We got to go beat USC.
On the road where they average 55 points a game at home.
I know.
Here you go.
There you go. There. And we never win.
Never win in Los Angeles.
Never win a West Coast game on their home field.
Yep.
But this team and Kirk, he's got all 5 of them guys on the offensive line are going to be NFL players.
Yeah, I saw Cade Pieper was in NFL like top 100 prospects going forward type of thing, and so
CBS has him going number 40. Insane. But they said in their write-up, which I already know, Cade Pieper is going to be our center next year. Kirk said it, and he said he's going to be the best center prospect we've ever had. And Kirk's coached more good centers at Iowa than anybody in the history of football.
I mean, even just recently, if you go back to, James Daniels and obviously Tyler Linderbaum, and you see what Logan Jones is doing right now. Like, Iowa's had some fantastic centers.
Yeah, you go on back to 2 guys that should be in the Hall of Fame, Jay and Joel Hilgenberg.
Yep.
That was the early 80s before you were born, and then you come on up to a walk-on Nelson.
Yep.
End up being a first or second round draft pick. And then you jump. Both Ferentz kids were pretty good centers. They just weren't athletic enough to really be great NFL centers. And you come up.
And they weren't great play callers either, unfortunately.
I don't know, but I don't know that. Oh, you mean as coaches?
Yeah. Oh, as offensive coordinators at an Iowa potentially.
The one boy wasn't.
Yeah.
I don't know about the other ones coaching for the Giants, I guess, but anyway. But I hope I didn't take up too much of your time.
We got plenty of time. It's a big game to preview. Before you go, Kelvin, do you have a score? I know you mentioned like 23-17 Oregon. Is that what
I did on that podcast I'm on? They always make me predict, which I hate predicting anything because you never know what's going to happen. If Iowa gets 4 interceptions like we did in the Woodshed game,
yep.
We can win 55-24 or whatever. But I would say I would say Oregon 27, Iowa 18 or something.
Okay.
But I'm hoping.
Yeah, I mean Iowa, it's right there. I could definitely do it, and I don't think people would be like, oh, like too surprised. Like it'd be a little shocking potentially, but it wouldn't be like insane if you told someone that Iowa was going to win this game, which is kind of fun to be in.
I want my Hawkeyes to win so bad it's ridiculous. But I really do. I just love the Hawkeyes.
Yes,
everybody knows that. But
and
anyway,
that's why we're here.
sorry I was on so long. But
No, Kelvin, you're good. We appreciate having you
I
on.
tried to be entertaining, kid.
Yeah, well, and you are, and I hope that
I know I am.
Hope that I'm pretty entertaining at times too. Hopefully,
you can be. I didn't like it after the Iowa State game when you were pretty down on our Hawks, but
I was.
You were being realistic.
Yeah, and I'm very happy to be. I'm always happy to be proven wrong. Oh,
yeah, I have no problem with that. You weren't wrong, but sometimes you have to just say the sky ain't falling. Yeah. Let's look what Kirk's done for 20 some years. You know that the drop ain't gonna last. If we can win 10 games with Deacon Hill as quarterback.
Oh, yeah. And anything can happen.
Is that the most amazing thing in the history of football?
I mean, that might be like if you're listing accomplishments for Kirk Ferentz, on his college football Hall of Fame resume, like you've got, Orange Bowl winner, and you've got, Big Ten champion, and this many first round picks. But then on that list, you're gonna have 10 games with Deacon Hill at quarterback.
Yeah, we actually won 11.
It was 11. Yeah.
But Cooper DeJean's punt return.
Yeah.
It's like
I'm glad
he's out of the last 24 November games, he's 21-3, and one loss. This goes back to 2019. We went for 2 points in the last few seconds of the game. Nate Stanley got stopped, and we lost to Wisconsin.
I remember that game.
And the other 2 games we lost, we really didn't lose, I don't think. Cooper DeJean's punt return. And the other one we lost was when Cooper DeJean got a concussion in the first few minutes of the game, and Petrus got hurt, and we lost to Nebraska.
Yeah.
That's a pretty darn good November record.
Yep.
But anyway, I gotta get off here so we can have T-Hink or somebody. T-Hink does a good job with you.
Yeah, and he's ready to hop on right now, so it'll
be good.
It'll be good. Thank you, Kelvin. It's always a pleasure to talk to you.
I love you and Josh.
Yeah.
So
we appreciate
do a great job.
And hopefully we're talking to Josh next Thursday.
Well, I hope so too. And then after we beat USC, you can talk to us the next Thursday.
Yep.
And then when we're in the college football playoffs, you can show up every show.
Yeah. I think that'd be great.
We'll have the dynamic duo back.
I hope Iowa gives us the opportunity right there. I'm hoping on that.
Me too.
All right, Kelvin, we appreciate you, and you have a great night.
Yep, bye.
And that was Kelvin Fisher right there. Thank you for hopping on with us. We're going to bring on another fan favorite caller here. T-Hink, my friend, it is good to see you once again. 2 days away from Iowa and in Oregon. How pumped are you for this? I said earlier that it's my most anticipated Iowa football game in at least 4 years. Are you kind of in that same boat where it just feels like everything's kind of setting up for Iowa to really give Oregon a game here and potentially win?
Yeah, it's setting up for a fantastic game on Saturday. It's probably one of the best games that'll probably be on the schedule in a long time. Probably back to the 2015 season. I think it tops the 21 game with Penn State just because of how bad the season ended, losing the next game to Purdue. It's setting up to be one of the bigger games in the KF era, I think.
Yeah, I mean, just when you think about how well Iowa's playing right now, that they're into the top 20 in the college football playoff rankings, that they're at home, there's a lot of things kind of bouncing Iowa's way right now, it feels like. And, a lot of people are riding the Iowa hype train. A lot of national pundits picking Iowa to win this game. I saw Kirk Ferentz was on the Pat McAfee show, and he he picked Iowa to win over Oregon, and a lot of
Or-
people saying Oregon needs to watch out, needs to be on upset watch here. And I don't know. If I know Dan Lanning, I know he is using that to his team right now, and he's painting them as, even though they're almost a touchdown favorite according to Vegas, he's painting them as the underdog in this game, and his team's going to be ready to play on Saturday.
Can't say I like that, man. I don't like having all these big puns guys talking about Iowa winning. We usually like to be the underdog, big underdogs, and having big media picking Iowa. Every time we have that happen, it seems like it bites Iowa, but maybe they'll prove them wrong this year. I don't know, but
yeah, when you look at Oregon, T. Hink, what's the thing that just scares you the most about this team, and where's an area that you think Iowa could potentially have the advantage?
I think that scares me the most with this team is their athleticism. I think they're another notch above Penn State, if I'm being honest with you. Their speed on the edges with their receivers and DeCorian Moore, even their running back, Noah Whittington. Those guys are built with speed. They got speed all over the field. It's going to be a big test for our secondary, I think. This will probably be one of the bigger tests. I think Indiana's second or their receivers were pretty good with Surratt. I think Oregon's probably better than Oregon's receivers. I probably are more athletic than Indiana's, but I think it's pretty close. And Iowa kept it with Indiana's guys. So if they can keep Oregon in their shoes and not let it run all over us, which I think it's going to be a lot less scoring now. We saw that with the point total is coming down a little bit with the weather. Can't say I'm a big fan of it. Oregon can run the ball just as well as Iowa can.
I mean, look at the stats on the screen here. I mean, they've got 4 guys with at least 250 rushing yards and 3 rushing touchdowns, and they're all averaging at least 6 yards a carry. I mean, this is a deep running back room for Oregon.
Definitely, and I mean, they're going to probably limit the ball through the air just because of the weather, because it sounds like it's just not going to be raining as well. It sounds like it's going to be wind too, so it's going to be also a challenge to throw the ball downfield. So I think the key for Iowa is controlling the clock like they did against Indiana. Control the ball, get first downs, manage the staying in chains, and get those first downs will be key, I think, for Iowa, just to keep it close, like they did against Indiana is probably their best bet for this game. I think they just got to keep it close like Indiana and give yourself a fighting chance in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I mean, low scoring, muck it up kind of game that favors Iowa. If this turns into a track meet, it's not going to end well for Iowa. Like they've really got to, we hear it all the time with Iowa, bringing opponents down to their level, and it's really just how Kirk Ferentz, teams play. Like they really do want to make you earn it, and they want to, mud up the game a little bit. And I think if Iowa can do that, they have a chance. But if this turns into a shootout, I don't think Iowa's winning a shootout against Oregon. And so, that this is the kind of game that you bring Mark Gronowski in for. I mentioned it earlier. Like you pay him $2 million. And he's been getting better every week, but this is the kind of game where you need him with his arm, with his legs, commanding the offense, making the right reads. Like you really need Mark Gronowski to, look like to look like the guy that's, won 50 plus college football games and is really experienced. And, it's a big game here for him. And I think his overall legacy at Iowa, because you only get 1 year with Mark Gronowski, and he lost to Iowa State, and he lose to Indiana, and then he beat Penn State, which is really probably his signature moment with those big runs late, and a Penn State team that isn't great this year, but still very talented. And this is kind of a moment where if Mark Gronowski beats Oregon, he'll never have to pay for a beer in Iowa City ever again. And so it's a big chance for him to kind of cement his legacy, I think, as a Hawkeye.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good point. Never thought about that. That would be key. He can really improve his top end quarterback if he can go and beat a top 10 team against Oregon. It'll be fascinating to see if he can keep it close. Which I think it'll be a close game. I don't think there's any way Iowa gets blown out here just because
Yeah.
it's in Kinnick Stadium. I said earlier the weather scares me a little bit because
Yeah.
are we going to get the full environment? You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
raining and cold are people. I mean, people are still going to make it a hostile environment, but it's not going to be. I don't think like what we saw against Penn State. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe people will show out, but
and maybe the weather's fine.
Comfort in my own apartment, so
Yeah.
I'll be on the
I'm
TV.
gonna be watching from inside. Maybe the weather's fine. Like, maybe it's not as bad as it's made out to be. We've seen weather people, be wrong before, and so it's not it's not a given quite yet, but the forecast does not look fantastic for that game, and we'll see. But I like the 2:30 kickoff a lot. I think that it does well for Iowa. Second half is going to be basically a night game because of how early the sun goes down, and it's gonna. I think Kinnick is going to be rocking. I really do. Cy Hawks team money is going to be there. Go Hawks, rabid dogs, and Kinnick when the lights come on, and so he'll be there cheering, rooting loud for the Hawks, and I think it's going to be a really fun environment and a big opportunity here for Iowa to kind of to prove and to show the doubters that they are legit. Like they're not just beating up on bad Big Ten teams. Like they can beat really good teams. And I mean, if they beat Oregon, I don't want to put my foot ahead of anything yet. But if they beat Oregon, they're setting up for a really interesting matchup with USC next weekend. But you got to beat the Ducks first, and in order for that to matter. And I think Iowa can do it. I'm not saying that they're going to, but I think the opportunity is there for them to do that. And I know you're messaging me about the college football playoff rankings and some teams that are maybe a bit overrated. But I think the committee, I'm not sure if this was on purpose, but I think it's very interesting what they did with Iowa, Oregon, and USC, because they have Oregon at 9, USC at 19, and Iowa at 20. So those teams are going to cannibalize each other because Iowa plays Oregon and USC. USC plays Iowa and Oregon plays Iowa and USC. And so, there's going to be no chance for multiple of those teams to have 2 losses or anything like that. If someone makes it out of that gauntlet, they're going to be very deserving. And so the committee, I'm not sure if it was on purpose, but they kind of put together a very interesting situation with those 3 teams.
Yeah, I think that's true. I mean, I didn't really think of that. I think whoever comes out of that stretch is probably going to be the one that gets the nod, because USC is going to have 3 losses, so they're going to cannibalize themselves and they're going to be out no matter what if they do lose again.
Yeah.
And who do they play next? They play Northwestern.
Yeah, Northwestern. So they'll win at home against Northwestern. And so they'll be ranked probably a top 17, 18, 19 team next weekend.
If Iowa does beat Oregon, then they'll be in the top 15, my guess.
Oh yeah, easily.
It may even be higher than that. It might be jump all the way up to the 12th spot.
Yep, which is big, which is very important. But we also have to remember that there is a automatic bid for a group of 5 team. There's no group of 5 teams in the top 25, I don't believe.
Nope.
And so Iowa's got to make sure if they're at 12, it's not good. Iowa has to be at least top 11 to get there. But we're kind of jumping way ahead here with the playoff talk. Iowa's got to win this game on Saturday for any of this conversation to matter in a few weeks. And so when you look at this game, T. Hink, what's your do you have a few keys to victory for Iowa, things that they just have got to do if they want to beat Oregon?
First key is special teams. We cannot miss any field goals this game. We cannot have Drew Stevens missing 20-yard field goals or 40-yard field goals. I know the conditions aren't going to be great, but any point matters in this game. You got to have your special teams on for this game. And they did pretty good against Minnesota. You had Weegan. I mean, he's been great all year long. He's probably going to win the Jet Award again. We got to figure out the field goal situation. The punting game hasn't been terrible. Another key, this is number 2, big key here. Iowa takes the ball every game. If they win the toss, no matter what, if they do win the toss or lose the toss, Iowa's taking the ball regardless because they're only a team I know that receives the ball at first.
Yep.
Do not turn over the ball the first drive you have it. That just takes out so much.
It's been a problem this season.
that takes out so much momentum out of the game because the crowd is just out of it. Because you just throw a pick and you're already in their territory, or they already go down and march. And I'm telling you, Oregon will score the ball whenever they get it. So limit their possessions. They cannot get turnovers like they did against Indiana, and I expect Iowa to be in a close game because Indiana will capitalize on it. You also, another key for Iowa's defense, you got to keep Oregon in long down distances. You can't let them get 4th and 1s, 3 and 1s, because Dan Lanning is a psychopath. He's going to go for it at 4th and 1. I don't care. He ain't punting the ball. I'm sorry, it's Oregon. They may go for 2 on some instances. It's Oregon.
Yep.
So those are my 3 keys of the game.
Yeah,
Special
and the kicking. Yep.
And don't turn over the ball, especially when you get the first drive, because that's been a problem besides the Minnesota game, which I was honestly shocking to see Iowa go down and march down the field.
Yeah.
Really, I was so relieving. If you could see Iowa do that this week, get up in this game and then get the crowd involved. That's number 4. I think I did 4 keys of the game. Those are my 4 right there.
Yeah, I mean, make Oregon play from behind. They certainly can, and they're certainly a team that's capable of coming back. But if you're playing from ahead, if you're playing from the advantage for most of the game with the crowd in there, you feel pretty good about that. Your chances if you're Iowa, and going back to special teams, I think that's also really key overall. Oregon's kicking game has kind of been suspect here recently too. Atticus Sappington, their kicker, has missed 3 of his last 6 attempts. Has not been really good this season from 45 plus yards, and so I'm not sure in these conditions if Oregon will even give him an opportunity from that long. I think they're going for it, unless it's like 4th and 15 or something like that, and they're like we can either punt or try the kick. But Iowa's got to make sure that they win the field goal kicking team and unit. And I mentioned earlier that Oregon doesn't really give up a lot of punt returns. I think their players only allowed 2 returns all season long. And so I'm not sure if they're even going to give Caden Muchin a chance when they do punt. And so, but if you get one mistake, we know Caden Muchin is very capable of turning that into 6 points. And so if Iowa can get a splash play there, maybe a blocked punt or something like that LeVar Wood styles up, something to try and grab the momentum back. And then, the turnovers are going to be big for Iowa's offense not turning the ball over, but for Iowa's defense creating turnovers as well. And Oregon has not turned the ball over very much, only 6 turnovers all season long, 4 picks and 2 fumbles lost. But tough road environment, some slippery conditions, maybe you get a tip ball. Like I really do think this game is going to come down to the fourth quarter, which defense can get the timely turnover. I really do believe that. And Iowa's done a good job this season recently of being opportunistic with those turnovers and making those plays. And if they're the team who's able to get that pick late off of Dante Moore and win the game, that wouldn't surprise me. But it could easily go the other way too, where Mark Gronowski makes a mistake and Oregon wins the game. And so I think it comes down to which team can get that timely turnover in the fourth quarter.
100% agree on you there. Shit, setting up for a great Saturday, man. You got big noon kickoff at 9 o'clock Central Standard.
Yep.
Then you got all that time to juice up for a 2:30 kick on CBS.
And so the Fox noon kickoff and the game on CBS with Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson as well. And so you get some great announcers and just a great overall broadcast there on CBS for this game. It's going to be very high quality, and this hopefully will be a high quality game between these two teams. I think there's definitely the potential for that. And
you have to win this one, man. You got to win this one. You cannot let the pundits and narrative say you cannot beat a top 25 team. You have to beat this game. I don't care if you come up short this week. If you don't win this game, then it's just falling right back down the path, right where we were at Iowa State. You have to win this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the opportunity's there, and Iowa definitely can. But are you predicting them too, do you think? Are you calling an Iowa victory right now, or are you thinking that they come up short again?
Sadly, they're coming up short.
Yeah.
I picked it in my preseason game that Oregon would beat Iowa just because their athleticism's nasty, man. It's crazy. And I still don't know if I have faith in our DBs and Hall and and Lee to maintain that for a full 60.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be close just because of Kinnick, but I'm going to have to go 20-17 Oregon.
Okay. 20-17 Oregon is as your pick.
What about you?
It's tough for me because preseason when I was on the show here with Josh and we did our game by game predictions, I had Iowa going 10-2 and I had them beating Oregon. I had them losing to Penn State and beating Oregon, and then losing to USC as well. And so like those were my two losses were Penn State and USC prior to the year. And obviously it hasn't gone down that way, but I picked Iowa to beat Oregon, and Oregon's been better than I thought they were going to be this year. With the new quarterback in there, and I think it makes a lot of sense to pick Oregon. I think, definitely on paper and even on film, they're the better team than Iowa. But I don't just something about this game has got me feeling kind of frisky. Like it's just I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the home game in November, if it's just how well Iowa's been playing recently, if it's just having a quarterback that is capable of doing things and moving the ball on its own. Like I think that's a big part of it with Mark Gronowski. I think he's a guy that can do some great things in this offense. And I don't know, just something about this game's got me feeling like Iowa's could have somehow pulled off. Like it seems like it's setting up to be a very Kirk Ferentz game, like Kelvin Fisher said earlier. Like it's at home, rainy conditions, great team in here in November. Iowa's offensive line is good. The running game is good. The defense is elite. Like it's setting up to be a very Kirk Ferentz type of game. I think if Iowa wins, it has to be a low scoring game. I don't see Iowa winning, a 35-31 barn burner. I think it's I think it's more of a low scoring affair. I'm going to pick Iowa to by the skin of their teeth, 21-20. They hold on there at the end. Iowa, it's a late defensive stand. Oregon's got a chance to get in the field goal range, and the defense makes one more stop at home. Kinnick is going to be going crazy. I just think it's setting up for Iowa, and maybe I'm setting myself up for disappointment. Or maybe I'm setting myself up to get my hopes up too high. But I've just really had a lot of fun watching this Iowa team the last couple of weeks, and I think they can really do this. I really do, and I think it's going to be a fun game.
It's going to be a great game. Yeah. The real Dave Portnoy, 32-37, saying Oregon is not a good team.
He's saying Iowa wins easy. Oregon is garbage, an easy win. David Portnoy. Well, he's got to be on the Fox Noon kickoff.
That's right.
In Iowa City. So we know who Dave Portnoy is picking to win this game before he even gets to the set.
Actually, I think Saturday. I think Dave Portnoy is setting this one out. I don't think he's coming.
Oh, is he? Okay.
He's going to a team down south. He came out and said that last week. He won't be in Iowa City for this one.
He doesn't want the smoke here in Iowa City. He doesn't want that Casey's Pizza, I guess.
He got the whatever one pizza names and called it quits.
I know it should be a lot of fun too. Thanks for hopping on. And do you want to plug your show, your Twitter Space show? Do you think you've got on Sunday night?
Yeah, so I do I guess Spaces on Twitter. Basically myself and another co-host, we do Sunday evening. We basically recap Iowa football. We started doing basketball. With basketball coming through the session now, we love doing the crossovers.
Yeah.
So we just basically talk about Iowa football's the game, and then we basically do some picks for college football, do some spreads. And then any callers that want to call in and put their input on the game or give their input on college football, we let callers call in. So, it's a black and gold breakdown. Good stuff. We usually have Zach on a couple times.
I've been meaning to get on. I'm not sure if it'll be this Sunday because my Steelers are playing on Sunday Night Football, so we'll see.
Totally understandable.
But hopefully next Sunday, hopefully after an Iowa win over USC, I'll be able to hop on there and talk.
Hawks. We do about 6:45, 6:30, 6:45 time. So if you follow me on Twitter or my X handle, It's T-Hink 717. We just do a show for about an hour, myself and CJ. So we all talk Hawks. So I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, make sure you check that out there on Twitter Spaces on Sunday night. And T-Hink, thanks for hopping on, my friend. It's always a pleasure. And hopefully we're talking next week about an Iowa victory over Oregon.
It would be very nice setting up the season for maybe college football playoff. We'll find out on Saturday.
College football playoff. I'm hoping you're right about that. I'm hoping you're right about that.
Keep dreaming. Have a good night, everyone.
Keep the dream alive. Thank you, T-Hink. We appreciate it. Go Hawks, indeed. And I'm excited. I'm excited about this game. You heard me right there. Pick Iowa to win 21-20. Let's finish up these comments here, and then we're already a bit over time here, so we'll get out of here. So you can go on and watch some Thursday night football tonight. See, Cyhawks Team Money says Big Ten tailgate also going to be there. Yep. Also joining Big Noon kickoff. So a lot going on in Iowa City this Saturday. I'm pretty jealous of anyone of people who are going to be over there in Iowa City checking that out. Also says D-line has to be disruptive. I agree with those seniors that you mentioned earlier here. Aaron Graves, Ethan Herkett, Mad Max Llewellyn. They've got to have a big game if Iowa wants to win here. That's a very senior defensive line. So I definitely look for those guys to make some plays. We got Kelvin saying we are feeling frisky. Yep. I just got that feeling. I don't know what it is. I just have that feeling about this game with Iowa. I think they're going to beat Oregon. I really do. I'm not even being facetious. I believe. Oregon versus Indiana, Iowa versus Indiana. Yeah, Iowa played Indiana better than Oregon did. And both of those games were home games for each team. And so, take of that what you will, but it's not nothing. It's not nothing in my opinion. Cyhawk C Money says on paper it's 24-17. It's not on paper. It's in Kinnick. Yes, it is, and that's why I think Iowa has a great chance to win this game. Caitlin Clark going to pick. I'm not sure. She would be a fantastic. She would really rattle the crowd up if you're bidding in kickoff and you're looking for someone to make those picks. And I know it's WNBA off season for Caitlin Clark. She's not playing in Unrivaled, and so theoretically she would have some free time if she wanted to come back and pick the game. But we'll see if they can get her back to campus. It'd be awesome if they're able to do that. It is the Armed Forces Appreciation Game this weekend. I'm not sure if Iowa's bringing out those American flag themed Tiger Hawk helmets. I would love if they do bring those back this weekend. Have not heard one way or the other. They're wearing the all black uniforms. Kirk Ferentz said that last night on Hawk Talk. So, we'll see where Iowa goes with that. And then thanks to all who serve the United States. Yes, agree with that. From Cyhawk C Money. Wow, what a show that was. I am ready to go. Iowa and Oregon, less than 48 hours away. It is going to be a blast. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to Iowa Primetime Live. Iowa at the voice of college football. It's been an absolute blast, an absolute pleasure. As Kelvin Thompson says, they are wearing the helmets. I'm ready. I'm so ready to go for this game. I'll be back next Thursday, same time, same channel, hopefully talking about an Iowa victory over Oregon. It should be a blast. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a great night. Enjoy some Thursday night football, and I'll talk to you next Thursday. Enjoy the game, and of course, and always, go Hawks.